Alright guys, I got a huge backpacking trip coming up this summer, heading to Isle Royale National Park in the Great Lakes Superior. And I'm out of shape. So I'm going to be lugging this backpack around and hiking around in the beautiful Highland recreation area in Highland, Michigan. And hopefully by this summer when we get out to the island, I will be in shape. So I'm hitting the trails. This is actually a cross-country ski trail, but there's not enough snow right now, so I'm just gonna hike it in my hiking boots and with my pack strapped on. Get some muscle sore, get some burn going, and hopefully it will alleviate the muscle sore and the burn for when I get out on this big backpacking trip this summer. There's going to be a total of 6 of us on the trip. It'll be me, my girlfriend, and my buddy Tom and his wife Dana, and my buddy Jason and his wife Tara. We are going to ride out to the island on a ferry. There's only a few ways to get to the island, either by ferry, which there's 3 different ferries you can take, or by seaplane. And we've decided on one of the ferries, and then when we get there, test the waterproofness of my boots here, I guess. So when we get to the island, we're going to take a water taxi from one end of the island to the middle of the island. Because Isle Royale is a 42-mile, well, I don't know if it's 42, a 40-something mile long island. And people tend to hang out at the 2 ends of the islands, because the ferries come to the 2 different ends of the islands. And I gotta step over a log here, step over another one, because the ferries come to the 2 ends of the islands. The ends are the most populated, and so we're gonna get out there and we're gonna try to get out into the middle of the island, and then we'll work our way back to the ferry by our last day. And hopefully by doing so, we'll have some remote campsites without a whole lot of people around, and I don't know, it'll just be a more interesting experience. We've had a lot of rain lately in Michigan. Not as much as in some other parts of the country, like say maybe the Mississippi River Valley. But makes for a muddy hike. But that's good because it'll give me a chance to test out whether or not my boots, these old hiking boots, are still waterproof. And I really hope they are, because I'm trying to take them to Isle Royale this summer. So far, they're doing pretty good. Totally dry. So I don't know how many of you guys backpack, but when you're backpacking, food's kind of a pain. This is the thing. You can either buy all freeze-dried, dehydrated meals, and all you have to do is boil water and add it. That's kind of nice, because you don't want to have to do dishes or anything like that. But it really gets old by the end of the trip. And then the other thing that a lot of people like to bring are like power bars, energy bars, all that kind of crap. And I gotta say, my last week-long backpacking trip, that's all I brought. Freeze-dried meals and energy bars. And I tell you what, I was craving sustenance. That stuff was just, by the end of the week, I was so sick of it. So I've been trying to brainstorm ideas for new foods to eat while I'm out backpacking. Enter turkey meat stick. See, what I was thinking was, can't really carry fresh meat because, well, it'll spoil. You know, you can't cook steaks, you can't do this, that. Well, who says the meat has to be fresh? We could get one of those summer sausages. Turkey summer sausage, beef summer sausage, pork summer sausage, I don't really care. But that stuff will keep as long as you don't open it. And then when you open it, finish it. That's why I'm leaning towards turkey. I can only eat so much sausage when it's pork or beef or one of those greasy meats. But when it's turkey, I can eat as much as I want. I could have my dinner one night. We get turkey summer sausage. And let's go beyond that. What about turkey summer sausage and cheese? I love cheese. So let's just find a harder cheese that'll last a little while without refrigeration. In fact, I've heard some cheddars will last without refrigeration, at least for a few days. I'm only going to be out there for a week, so maybe I can cut in half the amount of freeze-dried food I eat and start eating some other stuff that tastes better. So, turkey. How? I don't know how many of you have been to Michigan, but Michigan is freaking beautiful. Left to its own devices, Michigan would turn into one huge, dense, lush forest. I only wish that I could see what Michigan was like before the people got here and clear-cut most of the state. Everything you see here now is regrowth, and it's probably regrowth twice over. Every couple decades or so, humanity comes through and likes to level this area. It's always a fresh reminder for me at the beginning of spring, because it looks so barren in the wintertime when all the leaves are off the trees. You can see straight through the forest for miles. But you get out here in spring and it reminds you how dense and how deep the forest can get. You can get out in this stuff and get lost so easily. Now granted, this is a park with trails and such, so it's pretty easy to stick to the trails, but if you go out in the middle of the dense forest without any trails, it is so easy to lose your way, because it's just miles and miles of forest, and it's really hard to try to head in just one straight direction when you're walking in the woods without any kind of trail. So I just came out of the woods into this cool little meadow here. It reminds me actually quite a bit of when I was out in LA and I was hiking up in the mountains and I found that meadow. But maybe without quite as much vista. Surrounded on all sides by forest, just green grass. Man, I love hiking. You get to see so much cool stuff. Feels like a different time period. You know, you get away from the busyness, all the people cruising around all the time on the roads, the traffic, the work, all of that stuff. And you just get out here and it's like just me, the forest, the meadow, the grass, the trail. I love it. So, just thought I'd share. My kind of plan for today was to come out and just roam. I don't really know the trail system well, so I marked my location on the GPS when I first parked. And I kind of decided I was just going to get out here, roam around, follow trails, and just see if I can get to places I've never been to before. And I found this little tiny trail that leads off into the woods. I'm guessing it might be a game trail, because it doesn't look like the kind of thing that people would follow very often. So I started heading down here, and a couple of birds scared the crap out of me. They were sitting on the ground probably 3 feet from my feet. And I paused for a second, and they took flight and totally made me jump. Anyway, I'm going to keep hiking down this trail and see if I can spot any wildlife out here. There's a nice deep print here in the mud, so I think this is a path used by the deer. So I didn't have any luck on the game trail. It just got so thick I would have needed a machete to proceed. So I found my way back to a path. It's really difficult to see large wildlife up close in Michigan, because really the only way you can see it is up close. The woods are so thick, and you don't really have those wide vistas like you do in the mountains where you can see for miles. So usually they'll hear you coming and move off before you can ever see them. So I've been trying to be real quiet. I've kind of kept the camera shut off for a while. But I haven't seen anything. The few times I have seen things in the wild, it's usually little baby deer or something that are all bedded down. And when we just get too close to them, all of a sudden they pop up and take off running. But really, I haven't seen a whole lot. I have friends who've seen bear. I've seen a couple deer. See lots of things like frogs and squirrels and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, the large animals are pretty difficult to see when you're hiking. But I want to show you one of the other things I love about Michigan. The lakes. We got lakes, water, Great Lakes. We got inland lakes that are nice and small, like this one. We've got Great Lakes that are like an ocean, but an ocean of fresh water. I love Michigan. The state is awesome. So I just got back. I did all my roaming for the day. There was plenty of uphills and downhills, all the kind of training you need to get out there on the backpacking trail. And I just wanted to show you behind me here is the old Edsel Ford sheep barn. It's one of the few buildings left remaining from the old Ford estate here on the Highland Rec grounds. There used to be a lodge which burnt down probably about 10 years ago now. And then there's a few outbuildings from the lodge, an old carriage house where they used to store the horses and carriages, and a few other random things. There's some remnants of a swimming pool. There's a few pieces left over. They had a ski hill here. All kinds of weird things you can find out in the woods here. But anyway, just thought I'd point that out, and then I'm going to hit the road, head home, and get myself some dinner.